Hello, baseball fans. Looks like we're getting live here now to start, so I appreciate everybody showing up for our Friday night talk. Allow me to get a little bit more positioned here so it's easier. There we go. Sorry about that. Had to get in the center here. So I thought we could show up, do a quick Friday night chat, talk about baseball. I shouldn't say Friday night chat, sorry. It's actually Saturday chat. But anyways, I think I actually labeled this Friday night chat too. Where's the week going on me? But anyways, it doesn't matter what night of the week it is. Let's talk some baseball. Getting the chat going here. I see we got a couple people on already, so that's awesome. First off, I hope everybody's doing good. Just want to say the vlog's coming out today. It's just been a little bit later. It's going to be a vlog talking about the impatience of me and the Blue Jays. What's going on with Toronto? Are they going to land any of the three big starters? And we'll get right on to it with the first question of the night, and that is, do the Jays sign any starters this offseason? And I know people are certainly getting frustrated with the Jays. What's going on? Are they going to make a signing? And I think to a point where if the Jays don't make a signing, I think the fans are going to riot. Are you going to riot if we don't get Bauer, JT, Springer, or anybody? Could you imagine if our big haul for this offseason is Robbie Ray? Yeah, nothing against Robbie Ray, but I think our expectations are a little bit higher. So, do the Jays sign a starter? I think maybe, but it's not going to be the starter we want. Certainly not going to be Trevor Bauer, and I'm sorry if you think Trevor Bauer is coming to Toronto, but with his contract, it's going to be like $45 million annual value he wants for that 1 year, or something like $30 million a year over 8. Trevor Bauer for $250 million, $250 million? Not a chance. I'm sorry, he's not that type of pitcher, at least not for me. And there's a lot of better ways we can invest some money. So if the Jays are going to sign a starter, to go back to your original question, sort of rambling on here, maybe Jake Odorizzi. Jake Odorizzi's kind of like a roller coaster. He's got ups, he has downs, but when he pitches hard and he pitches well. He kind of reminds me of A.J. Burnett in that fashion, because A.J. Burnett, if you remember, he was one of those roller coaster type pitchers. Even in Toronto, even when he went over to, I believe, the Pittsburgh Pirates in his end years, you never knew what you were going to get out of AJ, and I feel a little bit about that about Jake. No offense to him, and I find him a little bit of line. If we're going to sign Jake Odorizzi, then why don't we just bite the bullet and sign Taijuan Walker? You get him for 2 years. Jake, you're probably going to sign for 3 anyways. Taijuan Walker, you might be able to do 2 for 24, 2 for 26 tops, and you get him in there. And more importantly, Taijuan Walker's already established a relationship with Toronto fan base, his teammates, the catching staff there. So if we're just going to be signing a starter to sign a starter, just sign Walker, I guess. Where the Jays really need to make an improvement, pardon me, one of those days with allergies, if they're going to make an improvement this offseason, it's going to come down to them via trade now, unfortunately. Or possibly fortunately. I said all along they should have been in on Yu Darvish, so really the team that screams to me with excess starters and wanting to make a trade is Cincinnati. Unfortunately, I haven't heard any rumors, other than my own, about the Blue Jays and Cincinnati speaking. I would be thrilled if they got Luis Castillo. That could be a deal breaker for the Jays and just push them into post contention, and that's just a question that popped up. Luis Castillo to me is like, that'd be like Christmas all over again for a Toronto fan. And I'll talk about Castillo in a second. But if the Jays are going to make an impact, it's going to, on their starting rotation now, it's going to be via trade. Hopefully with Cincinnati. And if it's not Luis Castillo, I would still be okay with somebody like Sonny Gray. I know he's been a little bit up and down, but he doesn't have the inconsistency of Jake Odorizzi or the injury worries as bad as, say, Walker. So that's where I think the Jays should make a play. And Luis Castillo, if Cincinnati's really serious about doing a rebuild, and I think they are, it just seems to be the way they're going, it's what they've said all along, well then it would be irrational if the Jays don't get more aggressive with Cincinnati to make a trade. Listen, they were going to make the trade, they were going to make the trade with Cleveland for Lindor for a 1-year rental. So the Jays seem to be comfortable with giving up some prospects. So let's give up the good prospects and get Luis Castillo. He's a nasty pitcher, and I mean that in a good way. He's controlled for 3 more years, so he's right aligned with the Jays coming up. Possibly a candidate that we could extend, and if not, then somebody you're going to be able to control for 3 years for as little as $35 million. So definitely in the Jays budget. And there's a lot of people who say Luis Castillo could be better than Ryu. And if he's not better, that's a vicious 1-2 punch in the Jays rotation. And secondly, I still see the Jays trading for Joe Musgrove. Joe Musgrove has a lot of upside, say to Jake Odorizzi or Taijuan Walker. He just has that establishment. He's a little bit younger. He's coming up. He's getting a little bit more control. He's only going to make about $4 million next year. And he's controlled for 1 additional year, which you'll get for about $10 million. So if we got Castillo and Musgrove, all of a sudden the Jays rotation gets really exciting, really scary, and one of the better rotations in all of the American League. You could have Hyun-Jin Ryu, followed by Luis Castillo, Joe Musgrove, Robbie Ray, and Tanner Roark, and Nate Pearson finishing it off. Now, I'm going to get into one more thing because there's a question about DJ. But somebody else has been hounding me with a question, and I think we got to address it, and that is, well, why is even Tanner Roark being discussed? Well, listen, Tanner Roark and Randall Grichuk are with the Jays. I can't see the Jays unloading them at this point. The only way the Jays are going to unload Randall Grichuk or Tanner Roark is if we made an influx of signings, which isn't happening this season. Doesn't look like it anyways. Or a crazy amount of trades, and now all of a sudden we have an influx of outfielders or something of that nature. And it's just not happening for Toronto. We're going to have to swallow that $12 million by Tanner Roark next year. Maybe Tanner Roark has a bit of a rebound. It's not a bad thing, especially with Nate Pearson. Especially if Nate Pearson starts off the first couple weeks in AAA, or he just needs a little bit more time to adjust. Tanner Roark could be, in a way, our insurance piece on Nate Pearson, filling in at the 5th spot in the rotation. Additionally, it looks like they're going 162 games next year, and a lot of people don't realize this, but Nate Pearson isn't stretched out to do 200-plus innings. It's just not there yet. So no matter what happens with Nate Pearson, he's going to get shut down in probably early September. So by having Tanner Roark there, Robbie Ray, Ross Stripling, all those people add insurance pieces to get us through into the postseason if that's where the Jays are going to go. So, and Randall Grichuk, I know he's going to be making between $10 and $12 million for the next 3 years, I believe. But that's actually kind of aligned with his value. The problem with Randall isn't his ability to hit, actually, or even the $10 or $12 million he's making. He sucks in the outfield. We can't really put him in the outfield on an everyday basis and expect the Blue Jays to save runs. And what I mean by saving runs is, if you can put an outfield together with an excellent defensive ability, you're going to save those opportunities and you're actually going to win more games. And that was very evident when we had Kevin Pillar in center field. If you look at the hits that he took away, the doubles, the triples, Kevin Pillar was a beast in center field. And the Jays really need to arise to that talent again. What the Jays need to do is follow that delicate balance where they get the defense into the outfield as well as getting the production. Because nothing against Superman Kevin Pillar, but he was never known to be that guy behind the plate that you can count on for the big hits. So, going back to the other question, what do I think about DJ? This is an interesting contract. I'm actually happy if I'm the New York Yankees. 6 years is certainly a lot longer than I thought, but $90 million over 6 years is actually a little bit cheaper on that annual value. And I always said all along, if the Yankees got themselves in a position where they re-signed, say, DJ LeMahieu, or added another piece, but they did it in a manner that allowed them to still get under that luxury tax, because it seems to be something the Yankees are concerned about, they did that. And then they followed it up with a punch by signing Corey, in their starting rotation. I think he's getting $11 million. So they actually got a starter now. Now the question about whether or not he's going to hold up next year, I think he's got a ton of rebound ability, and I would be actually excited to have him in your rotation. He's as exciting as Tanaka. And that goes to the other piece about this, because they have to realize now that they've done their signings, they got another starter, they've went and they re-signed DJ. I'm not sure if you're going to see Masahiro Tanaka actually re-sign with the Yankees. Be really interesting to see him in another uniform next year. I don't think he's going to be playing in Japan. He's got more in the tank. He's got another year or two to prove, but I don't know if it's going to be the Yankees. maybe the Jays? That would be very interesting. He knows how to handle the American League. I don't know if the Jays are having that conversation with him. I haven't seen those names spoken about. But yeah, as Oscar just said, who's watching, the Yankees got to steal with DJ. Especially keeping that annual value down for them and being able to get that consistency, that hitting, and allowing them to have that additional room as they did to go out and make that signing for starting pitching. So the Yankees got a lot more deeper over the last 2 days, something where the Blue Jays should be a little bit concerned with. And I think this is where the frustration is coming from Blue Jays fans. They saw the Yankees get better. They re-signed DJ. They added a starting pitcher. And the Jays, well, we're stuck with Robbie Ray and AJ Cole. Nothing against those. I'm actually really excited about the Cole signing for $1 million. I think he has a lot of potential in the Jays bullpen, but he's just not the signings that we want. Favorite Blue Jays catchers? That's a great question for me. You know, everybody always thinks of Pat Borders because they just reminisce about those 92-93 World Series years. For me, I was always a fan of JP. I remember when he came up, and if I have this correct, hit those home runs right off the hop. He had so much potential. I really liked him behind the plate. And for me, my favorite Blue Jays players, other than Roy Halladay, who was a hero of mine, always seems to be the underrated. And that's what I love about baseball. It's those smaller players who can come up and just really steal the show. I'm trying to remember who was, put it in the comments now because it's slipping my mind. Who was the shortstop that was with the Jays just a few years ago who was from Japan and he had an unbelievable personality? I can see his face. I just can't picture his name. If you have it in the comments, first one there puts his name up. Kudos to you. But players like that, and always Johnny Mac, John McDonald, even with his Father's Day home run, those are the players that really make it exceptional for me. It's those little players who rise to the moments. That's why I love seeing Kirk come up as a catcher. And I think for me being exciting, there's something about Alejandro Kirk that just really gets exciting about me. I don't know if it's just his size, seeing that pudgy guy behind the plate, his power, his personality, but all those things combined really gets me excited about him. However, I think he's one of the expendable pieces for the Jays, which is really interesting and unfortunate to say, and I could see him actually being in a Pittsburgh lineup moving forward, and that's who we get in return for Joe Musgrove. We'll just have to wait and see. Paxton rumors. Yeah, Big Maple. That worries me a little bit. I think if there's one pitcher next season that could have a lot of health issues, it's going to be Mr. Paxton. Now, people are saying, what? Paxton, yeah, starting pitcher. And somebody who I think they said $20 million, it's not happening. But I could see Paxton signing with the Jays for $10 million. Gives the Canadian a chance to play on home turf. And could be that last piece for the Jays for their pitching additions. As I said, you know, if you're going to sign somebody, Paxton, Odorizzi, T1 Walker, they're all very comparable, at least in my opinion. Let me know if I'm wrong. So signing any one of those guys are fine, but they're not the type of pitcher that you're signing to go deep into the postseason. That's when you trade for Luis Castillo. And it's funny because we were talking about Canadians returning home, and somebody said to me, well, if Cincinnati's selling, what would it take to get Joey Votto back to Canada? And I don't think it's necessarily what would it take to get Joey Votto back to Canada. It's where does Joey Votto play if he's back in the lineup? He's going to want to play first base. He's established himself at first base. Do we push Vladdy over to third where he made 8 errors already in the winter season? Nothing against Vladdy. He's trimmed himself down. He's done some amazing conditioning. But at the end of the day, I don't know if his defensive ability is just going to hold up at third base. And I see Vladdy being a first baseman. So the problem with Joey Votto returning home to Canada is not necessarily taking on his contract or making that trade happen. It's where he's going to play. And I can't see Joey Votto being happy being a DH. Nor do I see Vladdy, especially being so young and developing, being a DH as well. There is one piece, though, in Cincinnati where I could see the Jays making a trade and taking on an additional piece. I did a vlog on this, and that's Mike Moustakas. Mike Moustakas is owed, I believe, 15, 16, and then a third year around 20. It's about $52 million altogether over the last 3 years. Plays second and third base, so he could be our solution for third base, especially if we were to do a trade for Luis Castillo and Mike Moustakas. That would be amazing. Or even Sonny Gray and Mike Moustakas. And I said this all along when the Jays should make a play for Yu Darvish. We should have added Chris Bryant in there if we could. So if there's an opportunity where we could make a trade to address third base as well as our starting rotation, I'm all over that. And pardon me, my dog's getting excited. He's all over that too. But to me, having third base solved for next season is important to me. And I think that's actually a big question mark, as big a question mark as the Jays rotation for next season. Where and who is playing third base? That's why it was really exciting about Ha-Seong Kim. Unfortunately, he went to the Padres. But with Ha-Seong Kim, he could have played second base. He could have played third base, so there was no issue there. I think if the Jays get down to a point where the free market starts to dry up for the Toronto Blue Jays, I could actually see Bo going to third base, and I could see them signing a shortstop. Why? Because there's a lot of shortstops just on the free agent market this year. A lot of shortstops you could get maybe on a 1 or possibly 2-year deal on the cheap who can provide you some amazing defensive ability. Maybe not the best behind the plate for giving you that production, but certainly can handle shortstop with no issues. The biggest example of that would be Alteron Simmons, who you could easily get for as cheap as 2 for $14 or 2 for $16. And that could also solve our issue with center field if you're talking about a contract for 2 for $14, because that's what I think Jackie Bradley Jr. is going to get. And I think he could be an awesome signing for the Blue Jays as well. The next name to sign or be traded. That's an interesting question. It's not going to be George Springer, and it's not going to be Trevor Bauer. I think it's going to come down to JT Realmuto, and if any other teams ante up to the $105 million that the Philadelphia Phillies have offered him. And that's where I said the Jays, and I just finished the vlog, I'm editing it right now, need to get aggressive on JT Realmuto. If they could get him for even as cheap as 5 years, $120 million, $24 million annually, maybe outbid the Phillies by $15, $20 million, that could get the deal done. And then I said, and what's George Springer going to do if JT does come off the board in Toronto? He's going to be worried because he's going to look at it like the market is significantly drying up. And maybe George Springer's expectation of $175 million becomes a reality of $125 to $135 million that I think he's going to get. Especially if the Mets are looking like they might not be able to spend. If he's worried that the Jays have made their one big signing in JT and won't ante up for George Springer. And honestly, if the Phillies are going to go for contract for George Springer, they'll just offer it to JT, so they'll be out as well. And I don't think the Nationals could eat that. So where does George Springer go if the Jays sign JT Realmuto? And I think if the Jays got aggressive and signed JT Realmuto, it's going to lower that value for George Springer right off the hop. And then the Jays could actually be in a unique situation where they could sign JT Realmuto and George Springer. Fingers crossed, but that could actually happen. But the only way it's going to happen is if they get JT away from the Phillies right away. So I could see JT being one of the names to come off the board. I think the next big player who actually signs, though, I think it's going to be Marcell Ozuna. I think Atlanta and Ozuna are going to get the deal done. I think the biggest thing that's holding it up right now is whether or not there's going to be a DH in the National League for 2021 for next season, or this season, I should say. I don't think there is. That's not going to hold up the Ozuna deal with Atlanta, but it might lower the value or the years a little bit. But I think that's the next big deal that gets done. I could see Michael Brantley getting signed as well. There's a lot of people sniffing at him. And I think Brad Hand's going to just come off the market anytime now. I mean, he could come off the market conceivably before this vlog is done, or this live stream. And I know they've talked about the Blue Jays. He's going to the Mets. I've said that all along. I feel real strong about that. I had a suspicion that Liam Hendricks was going to be going to the White Sox, Hand to the Mets. Just made sense. But this is really interesting for the Blue Jays because I think they're going to get Alex Colon. And I think Trevor Rosenthal is going to re-sign with one of the other teams as well, if we're talking about the top relievers that are out there currently. So that's really how I see that going and progressing for everybody. Another big question that I had asked to me recently was, are the Jays going to be playing in Buffalo or are they going to be playing in Toronto? And I hate to say it is, they're going to be playing in Buffalo at least until July. Apologies there for the sip. This isn't a plug to Tim Hortons. Drink whatever you want. As long as it makes you happy. But they're going to be playing in Buffalo. I hope that maybe by Canada Day they could get everything arranged to play our first game in the Sky Dome. And I would be really excited if the first game of the Jays was in the Sky Dome. Additionally, they could offset it a bit. And what do I mean by that? Maybe Major League Baseball does the Blue Jays a favor in this situation, and we play a lot more away games for that April, May, June period. And it allows the Blue Jays to have a lot more home games for the last half of the season, make that revenue back, increase that fan base without really affecting the Blue Jays or any other teams. Major League Baseball has done this before. They've adjusted their schedule for things like the Olympics, so maybe that could work in the Blue Jays' favor. And we have a Major League Baseball season that starts in April, but one that starts in Toronto on July 1st. I'm going to answer a couple other questions and then we'll wrap it up. I just appreciate everybody jumping on board here tonight and talking. There was so much activity this week in baseball. I was like, oh, we better have a quick chat. So arbitration numbers are out. The Jays are doing great. They got a lot of people signed. The international signing period's over. We made a variety of signings, Beltray being probably the biggest one out of that. So there's some excitement coming from our international signing base as well. But the biggest thing over the last week that I think is very interesting is Trevor Story. And why? Well, I did a vlog on Trevor Story maybe coming to the Yankees. That was a big strikeout. Not to say it's totally dead, but I don't see that happening. But as soon as I did that vlog, there was something that came out in the Colorado press that they are really actively trying to shop Trevor Story, even more so than Nolan Arenado. They believe that Nolan Arenado is not going to get traded till the midseason. And Trevor Story could be a huge get for any team. Why? This guy is as productive as Francisco Lindor. He actually has an annual WAR higher than Lindor, and he's one of the top 10 players in all of baseball for WAR over the last 5 years. I know people scream about WAR, and they may be into it, they may be not. But like it or lump it, Trevor Story is an amazing player. He's a one-year rental, so he's just like Lindor. However you trade for him, he's going to hit that open market next year unless you can ante up that money. He's going to get a contract in excess of $200 million, probably greater than $250 million. That's how good Trevor Story is. Any team that lands Trevor Story, though, has an immediate upgrade. He's the type of guy that can save you a ton of runs and make you a ton of runs. He's an all-around awesome threat on the diamond. So, where is Trevor Story going to go? If the Yankees are off the table, I'd love to see the Jays get involved. I really hope the Jays don't sell the farm for a one-year rental. Sorry, I'd love to have Trevor Story, but we're not ready to do that type of trade for at least another season or two. So now I could conceivably see Trevor Story maybe in Los Angeles. That's right, Los Angeles Angels, actually. They have a deficit at shortstop with Alteron Simmons out of the picture. They said that they want to make big additions next for this season. They have the chips and the money to make this happen. What I mean by that, they can not only trade for Trevor Story, but they have the money to extend him as well if they really want to go all in. And they could still do this by adding another elite pitcher. Not Trevor Bauer, I don't think, but I could see Trevor Bauer definitely going to the Los Angeles Angels as well. But maybe they do it where they sign somebody like Jake Odorizzi. So they get some starting pitching help. They use their prospects to make that big trade for Trevor Story. And that could make the Los Angeles Angels a real decent team. And it's always frustrated me. And it has nothing to do with Mike Trout. The Angels are a great team. Why do they not go deeper into the postseason? I'm a head scratcher on this. It's like the Matrix, trying to understand the ending of it. Neither one, I don't know. If you have any thoughts, leave it in the comments there about why the Los Angeles Angels don't make it into the postseason as deep as they do. Why is Mike Trout not playing World Series baseball when he really should be? Could you imagine Mike Trout going his entire career without playing in a World Series game? Wow, that would just be dreadful. But I could see that actually happening. So maybe the Los Angeles Angels goes, okay, listen, we got to finally figure this out. We got to get deep into the postseason. Let's spend the $45 million. Let's sign Trevor Bauer. Let's get that trade done and get Trevor Story. And if they had Trevor Bauer and Trevor Story, the two Trevors, come on board to Los Angeles with Mike Trout, with everything that they've done over the last couple seasons, there's no reason why they can't be the team to beat in the American League. Yeah, who's coming back with Luis Castillo? I know, like, I can talk about Luis Castillo all night long. I just love pitching and I love him. If the Jays are going to make a trade for Luis Castillo, what does Cincinnati really want? Well, Cincinnati's actually a little bit more concerned with their rotation than necessarily adding infield pieces. So it's not going to be somebody like Austin Martin. And in fact, the Jays are never going to part with Austin Martin. He'll never be included in any type of conversation. He's an untouchable guy, pardon me. However, with Luis Castillo, I could see the Jays easily, conceivably trading Jordan Groshans, possibly. Or maybe they go the other route with Luis Castillo and they trade away Simeon Woods-Richardson, Alek Manoah, Alejandro Kirk, and Julian Mayweather. Yeah, those are huge names, but those are the types of names that are going to have to get this deal done. So if the Jays are making that trade, that's what it's going to take. And on top of all those prospects going to Cincinnati, you know who else they're going to want? Lourdes. That's right. So you're going to have to give away that entire prospect package plus Lourdes. So as I said, you're looking at Lourdes, Manoah, Simeon Woods-Richardson, Alejandro Kirk. That gets you Luis Castillo. And maybe you swing the deal and you include Mike Moustakas and you eat his $52 million over the next 3 years as well, which I like because the Jays gets a starter and they get a third baseman. So let me know if I'm wrong, though. Let me know who your dream pitcher would be for the Jays next year. And what do you think of Trevor Bauer? And that's what we're going to close on here tonight. I know we've been going on for like 30 minutes, so I appreciate everybody listening to me ramble. Where the heck is Trevor Bauer going to go? And is him being on social media really going to impact his value? And that's the second question that somebody asked me, because they were talking about Marcus Stroman and comparing them to. And I could see some similarities there, and I can see why somebody would say, yeah, it irritates me seeing him really flaunt things, very similar to Marcus Stroman. And I can assure you that Marcus Stroman, with his recent comments, have probably burned any fan that he had left in Toronto. So not a great feeling, and not something that Marcus Stroman should really do. And I think he's going to really suffer going into next year's free agency. And it's not simply because of that. It's simply because of his production and his attitude. Trevor Bauer's a little bit different. He's got that swagger, but he's also got the numbers where he can prove it, where Marcus Stroman just hasn't yet. And yes, I know he's been poking a lot of people with social media, but he's playing that cat and mouse game. So the big thing with Trevor Bauer is, can he keep his mouth shut, pardon me for saying that, when the season starts, get down to brass tactics and pitch like he pitched last season? And if he pitches like he pitched last season, he could probably say whatever he wants online and people will be happy. That's not what Marcus Stroman can do. And in comparing those two, where is Trevor Bauer going to be next year? Does he go to Toronto? Well, let's talk about Toronto. Trevor Bauer is going to sign a contract where he wants to get close to Garrett Cole. And if you don't know what that means, look back or Google after this some of the riffraff between Cole and Trevor Bauer. It's like a competition there. They're like enemies to a certain degree in a nice way. And one big thing about Trevor Bauer is he wants to make more money or try to figure out a way to at least eclipse that one annual value for at least 1 year on Garrett Cole. And that's why you keep hearing $40 million, $45 million for that first year, just so he could give basically Cole a punch in the gut a little bit. So the Jays are going to have to go $40 million at least for the first year. Plus, they're going to have to probably have some insurance. And what I mean by that is you're looking at a contract of easily $250 million over X amount of years, where somebody like Trevor Bauer can leave after this year. So you could sign him and pay him $40 million for the first year and he leaves. You could do 2 years. Maybe you pay him 95 million over those 3 years and he walks. There's no guarantee there. And it's very similar to what's happening with Nolan Arenado. And that's why Nolan Arenado is not going to get traded this offseason. And not to ramble on, but the issue with Nolan Arenado is you don't know what you're getting back. Nolan Arenado can opt out of his contract after next season, so you could trade all your prospects in the world and you get 1 year of them. Or Nolan Arenado could do what Stanton just did with the Yankees and say, you know what, no, I'm going to ride it out to 2026 and you're going to pay me $32.5 million. And as a team, then you have to realize, okay, do we have the budget to absorb $32.5 million for till 2026? Were we only counting on him on being here for 1 year? Or is it the flip side? You trade all those prospects and go, no, he's going to stay here till 2026. There's no way he's going to opt out of his contract. And then all of a sudden, next year at this time, we're wondering where Nolan Arenado is going to sign. And the Jays have now mortgaged Lourdes, or they've mortgaged Teoscar, or somebody like that. And that's where we'll end tonight. I know I just said this a minute ago, but this is where we'll end. And that's why Jays fans have to be a little bit patient. It's like an extreme chess move here. And let's look at the signings. Is there anybody there outside, in my opinion, of Ha-Seong Kim that you're upset about? Maybe DJ LeMahieu. I love that $90 million. I know Oscar said that at the beginning of the blog, that's a live stream, that's a steal, and it is. It's not necessarily the years, it's his annual value that's very low, and the type of production that DJ LeMahieu can produce, and the amount of bases that he can field. But to me, there's no real trade yet that I feel the Jays have completely missed out on. I don't see any crucial signing yet that the Jays have really missed out on. So just be a little bit more patient. However, on the flip side to that, and as we close, if the Jays don't sign JT Realmuto or George Springer or a Trevor Bauer or make a trade for at least a Sonny Gray or a Luis Castillo, I'm going to bite my tongue probably till it bleeds. This is going to be the only season where Jays can afford players on a minimal value, on a soft market. So Toronto has to take advantage of this. And what do I mean by that? I mean JT Realmuto in any other season would be making between $175 million to $200 million. George Springer, if it wasn't a COVID season, would be making well over a $200 million contract. This is the only time that the Blue Jays can actually overpay for a player and still underpay. Maybe it happens next year, but maybe everybody's back in the fans next year. Maybe there's a vaccine that's working. I'm not going to get into the vaccine talk, but maybe there's revenue coming in and the Jays all of a sudden can't afford a Noah Syndergaard next season. Yeah, he's available. Or somebody like that. But that's why the Jays have to get aggressive this year. The Jays will always have to overpay. It's just part of being Canadian. It's nothing against the Toronto organization. Everybody who comes here loves it, but we're always going to have to overpay for that free agent. That's why we paid that extra year for Ryu and got him last year. Not complaining. Love Hyun-Jin Ryu. Jays just have to take advantage of it this year. And if they don't, I don't know if we ever will. And certainly if they don't, they really risk at irritating a lot of the fan base. So fingers crossed that maybe the Jays are just holding on to the chips and really getting ready to make that huge punch, that knockout punch in free agency. We'll wait and see. Thanks for listening to me live stream. My vlog's going to be coming on later tonight, not to give it away, but it's about JT Realmuto and George Springer and why we should probably sign JT. And there's another bonus vlog coming on tomorrow. Check that one out. It's actually going to be another prize vlog, and it's about Elvis Presley and baseball. I mean, we've done enough of these signings and who's signing here, who's signing where. So I thought, hey, let's do a nice Sunday vlog. Let's talk about a cool story about Elvis Presley and Major League Baseball. Check that one out tomorrow. And that one tomorrow is also going to be another prize vlog because I just want to thank you guys all again. We're well above 300 subscribers, and that's amazing. Look at my setup here. Two things I'm going to be investing in over the next month or two is a green screen or some type of solid background and a little bit of lighting. But all you guys who've been listening to me ramble on from the beginning when I've been doing this just in front of a mirror, I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble. I hope everybody has an awesome night. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon. Take care, everyone.